Welcome to the Human Side of Money, a show dedicated to equipping financial advisors with the skill set required to work with emotional human beings on the emotionally charged topic of money. You'll get practical tips and insights on applying behavioral finance into your practice from conversations with fellow advisors, industry consultants, and experts in the fields of behavior, psychology, communication, and more. Each episode is designed to help you enhance client outcomes of your advisory business. Now here's your host, Brendan Frazier.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Human Side of Money, powered by RFG Advisory, where today we're going to be talking about the number one fear that crops up for any advisor who's ever left a firm and gone to another firm or started their own firm, or for any advisor who's out there thinking about considering making the leap, leaving the firm that they're at, joining another firm, or going independent and starting their own firm. Whether you've done it before, whether you're sitting there now, you're sitting there thinking, I know exactly what that number one fear is. It's client attrition. It's that question of, will my clients come with me if I make this move? You sit there and you go, I think that they will. I'm pretty sure they will. I do a good job. I think my clients like me. But this fear, it's completely normal, completely valid for a couple of reasons. Number one, there's major financial implications, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you can love this job that you do, but clients mean revenue. Revenue means how you live, how you pay your bills. So there's major financial implications of clients not coming with you. But I think there's another element and component to it that probably doesn't get enough credit because we don't really want to think about it, or we don't think it should matter. But there's also an emotional barrier to it, an emotional component where you say, I've had these clients for a long time. I think I do a good job. I think we have good relationships. But by making a move to a new firm or starting your own firm, what you're doing is you're essentially creating this on-the-spot evaluation of your relationship and service where clients will actually sit there and go, am I going to go with them or am I not? And you're kind of coming hang on, let me do that again. And you're basically walking into this situation where you may have, there's the possibility that you have a client you've worked with for a long time that you think you have a great relationship with that doesn't come with you. And that could be a kind of a scary proposition as well, to have to face that head on and start wondering, well, was the service not as good as I thought? Was the relationship not as good as I thought? And so by making this move, you're not just worried about clients not coming with you, you are, but you're also worried about what it means for those who you thought for sure would come with you, but don't. So a lot of things going on here, a lot of factors to get over, a lot of barriers to overcome. So what we're going to do is talk about one of the most important things you can do that you can control that maximizes the likelihood of getting your clients to move over and follow you and come with you. If you want to retain as many clients as possible, this is one of the most important things you need to know, one of the most important things you can do in order to do that. To give you an idea of what that is, I want to take you back to a conversation I had with an advisor who was in this exact position just a few months ago. For the sake of anonymity, we're going to call him Marvin. So Marvin was leaving the big firm he had spent basically his whole career at, or I guess it was his entire career at. He was leaving to go independent. He was going to start his own firm. And as you would imagine, his number one fear before making that move was the same question. Will my clients come with me? I think they will. I'm pretty sure they will, but there was no guarantee. And so he was worried he was going to lose some of those clients along the way, but he ended up making the move anyway. And about a week into that transition, a week later, his fears had basically turned into a reality, or as he said the reality was actually worse than I envisioned. A week later, he had several clients that he thought would follow him, that told him that they needed to think about it. The ones that he thought were for sure going to follow him. He was nowhere near what he had targeted as what the number of households and assets that he needed to move over to justify this move. And so then you fast forward about 2 weeks later, talking to Marvin again, and everything had pretty much completely changed. The tone was entirely different. And not only at that point had most of his clients, especially the ones that he wanted to move, agreed to move with him, he was on pace to bring over more households and more assets than he had actually anticipated when he kicked this whole thing off. So naturally, of course, what I want to know is the same thing that you're wondering that you want to know as you're listening to this, which is what happened? What was different? What changed in that 2-week period? And what he said was, everything changed once I changed what I was saying to my clients, but more importantly, how I was saying it to my clients. And so he walked through with me the 4 steps that he went through to refine this message. We worked on it together a little bit. And so turned it into this 4-step process that you need to know to effectively communicate a transition to maximize the likelihood that your clients come with you, that you maintain trust along the way, and that ultimately sets you up on the trajectory for long-term success. If you have a fear, if you're thinking about making a move and you go, hey, I don't know, my number one fear is client attrition. Will they come with me? You go through these 4 steps and it'll give you the confidence that you need to maximize the likelihood that they come with you. So let's get into it. Number 1, and it's step number 1 for a reason. You've got to get inside your client's mind. It's completely normal, completely understandable that when you're going through a transition like this, when you're making a move to a different firm, and maybe you've even been at the firm you were at previously for 20 years, it's a big deal for you personally, for you professionally. It's a big change in your life, and it's really easy and natural and understandable for the focus to kind of be mostly on you and what the move means for you and how excited you are about it. We've got to go inside the client's mind and remember at the end of the day, the clients, they're probably going to be happy for you, but they still want to know what's in it for them. And the most important message that you can convey in conversations like these is not about you and your business. It's still speaking directly to them and what they're thinking, feeling, and experiencing in that moment when you're letting them know this news. In fact, there's psychology research out there that shows that people are significantly more likely to understand and retain information when it's framed in terms of their personal relevance. When you explain how your transition helps them, and we'll talk about that a little bit here in a second, when you focus on them and what this means for them, they listen more attentively and they're going to feel safer potentially making the jump with you. So when you call and when you reach out, when you communicate that you're making a transition, the things that clients are wondering in their mind, they may be happy for you, but the things that they're wondering either consciously or subconsciously are things like, what does this mean for me? What's going to change in my life and my finances? How am I going to benefit from this unexpected change that I didn't even know was happening? Or how does this now affect my money, our relationship, my overall experience? And so as you start crafting your message, as we start doing that here in a second, always start by framing it through going inside the client's mind and saying, if I were this client, what would I want to know about how this impacts me practically, emotionally, and financially? Let's look at it first and foremost through that lens. That's step number 1, get inside the client's mind. Step number 2 is a 5C framework for how to communicate or script the message. So step number 2 is drafting the message, communicating it effectively, but you got to go through the 5 C's in order to know the best way to do it. So we're going to start with the first one. Number 1 is client benefit. Ties directly into step number 1. We said, hey, get inside the client's mind, think through what they're thinking, feeling, and experiencing. And as you start composing, drafting, putting together this message, you want to think through the lens of what's in it for them. Well, I guess it's what's in it for me. They're wondering what's in it for me. So no matter how well this client knows you, no matter how strong your relationship is, a change like this, especially for the money in their life, it introduces uncertainty. You've been thinking about it for a while. This is the first time they're hearing about it. And when this happens, when change happens, it leads to uncertainty. And when they hear that you're leaving, And when they hear that you're leaving your firm, their brain doesn't immediately go to, oh man, this sounds like it's so great for you. It leaps to, what does this mean for me? How is this going to affect me? So there's a couple different ways that you could communicate this. Let me give you 2 examples of what it could sound like so you can hear the difference between the message that's tailored towards what's in it for the client versus the message that's more advisor-centric. The first option would be to say, hey, Mr. Client, I've decided to leave ABC Financial to start my own firm. I wanted more independence and control over the way I ran my practice, and so this move was necessary. Or you call the same client and say, Mr. Client, I've made a move that's going to allow me to serve you with greater flexibility, lower costs, and better technology. Maybe most importantly, I'm not going to be constrained anymore by the red tape of a big firm, and it's going to mean more personal, tailored service for you. The first one's advisor-centric. Here's how I'm benefiting from this move. The second one's client-centric. Here's why I'm making a move to better serve you. So here's a quick script you can use. Just a quick fill-in-the-blank script you can use to make sure that the messaging is client-centric. It goes, number 1, I made a move to wherever you're moving. Number 2 is that this move allows me to, and then insert the benefit of the client, so that I can better and then tie it to their specific situation. I made a move to start my own firm because it allows me to center more on the client experience so that I can better serve you and give you advice more tailored to your situation. Now, that's a pretty generic way to say it. And you can even hear as I say it, it sounds a little bit scripted. We're going to talk a minute about how to make it unscripted. But the point is, you want to start thinking through that framework of how do I focus it on the benefit of the client, not the benefit to me as the advisor. That's the first C. The second C is confidence. One of the most underrated but critically important elements of this message when you communicate it is the tone. The tone of the message shapes how the client feels and receives it more than the content of the message itself. In other words, just as important and probably more important than what you say is how you say it. You could say all the right things, but if your delivery signals any type of uncertainty, the client's going to feel that uncertainty too. If you deliver the message with a confident tone that's rooted in and convicted with this belief that it's an incredible upgrade for your clients and their future and their finances, you communicate it that way, what it can do is in that moment, it will signal to them that you made the move thoughtfully and strategically, that they're in good hands, and that this transition is a positive step forward. So let me give you, again, let's go through some examples of what it sounds like. Let me give you two examples, two different ways that you can say it, and then you listen to it and decide which one has the tone of confidence that you want to convey to your clients. So the first one would be like this. Hey, Mr. Client, I wanted to let you know I've decided to leave my firm. I know this might come as a surprise, and I just hope it doesn't disrupt anything for you. I think it'll be a good move for me, and I hope that you'll consider continuing to work with me, but I completely understand if you have concerns about it. That's one way to deliver it. The other option would be, Mr. Client, I wanted to personally share some exciting news. I made the decision to move to a new firm that aligns more closely with how I want to serve you. It gives me more flexibility, more independence, better tools that'll support your financial goals. And because no one likes change, I completely get that. I've planned carefully and thoughtfully how to make this as seamless as possible for you. I think it's already obvious which one delivers the tone, the confidence that says, hey, this is good. This is a great thing. That doesn't speak to the uncertainty that they may be feeling. That doesn't amplify the uncertainty they may be feeling. The second one delivers the confidence and the certainty that clients need when they hear this message. So we went through the client benefit. We went through the second C of confidence. The third C is clarity. Again, like we said earlier, in a situation like this, it introduces uncertainty into the other person's mind. Human beings, we hate uncertainty. We genuinely hate it. There's a lot of research out there on it, but our brains just do not like the state of uncertainty. So anytime we can alleviate or reduce that feeling, we want to do it. And one of the most powerful tools to alleviate or address uncertainty is clarity. The more clarity that you can provide about what's going to be happening moving forward, the less uncertainty and anxiety that person feels. So if you're thinking about how do I communicate this clarity to increase their confidence, reduce their uncertainty, you want to set expectations, very clear expectations about two things. Number one, what exactly is going to happen next? And number two, when is it happening? So if they've said or alluded to the fact they want to come with you, if they're thinking about coming with you, they want to know what comes next, you always want to let them know very specifically what happens from here and when is it happening. Set very clear expectations around the timing, the process, and then what's changing or not changing. And so it could be, you have to know everything that's involved in the process to be able to articulate it and clarify it for them. But it could be something like saying, okay, so what happens from here is you're going to receive an email from me. It's a transition email where I'm going to have some paperwork in there. You sign that paperwork. And then after we get that done, as soon as that's executed, then we'll send over the transfer paperwork. Transfer paperwork's for you to review it, look at it, and sign it. And once those two things have been executed, we'll request the assets be sent over from the other custodian. At that point, it'll happen within 7 to 10 days of that request. And as soon as the assets are here, your new portal will get set up, and we'll call you to connect with you and make sure you know everything. We'll call you to connect with you and make sure you know how to access everything you need to in your new portal. If we start today, we can have it all done probably in the next 10 to 14 days. Now, the time frames are going to change based on the firm you're at, how busy you are, the number of steps that are involved. But the key is letting them know, hey, here's what's happening next and the time frame in which to expect it. Most importantly, you just want to let them know that, hey, we've mapped this out for you and you can plan on this things being resolved by this point. It injects clarity and minimizes uncertainty. So now we've got client benefit, competence, and clarity, which takes us to the fourth C of connection. This might be my favorite C. Or maybe let's call this, it's probably the most overlooked C that there is. Because what happens is you get into this rush of a little bit of anxiety, but also excitement to convey this exciting news to clients. You want to let them know what's happening. You're excited about what's going on. You want to let them know. You want to know if they're going to come with you or not. And it's really easy to overlook one of the most important parts of the conversation. You're telling them, hey, I'm making this move. I'm doing it for you. You're telling them with confidence. You're giving them clarity. But sometimes we forget that this is a big change to the client. This is unexpected to the client. In fact, if we think about it, it's probably a change that you've been thinking about, analyzing, dwelling on, considering for, at the very least, months, at the very most, years. And all of a sudden, you're picking up the phone one day, and unexpectedly, on the other end of the line is the client that's hearing this big news that you've been ruminating on for months or years. And so while it's been a big deliberation for you, it's an instant, sudden change for the client. And so that can create uncertainty, like we talked about. It can also generate some emotion. Uncertainty can create emotion. And so anytime you deliver news like this, you want to make sure that you leave the space to meet that emotion with empathy. First, you can acknowledge the situation. So it might sound something like, now listen, I know this might come as a surprise and you may have some questions. You may even have some mixed feelings about it, which is completely normal and completely understandable. So you're normalizing, acknowledging the situation. Hey, I recognize this may be a surprise. You may be feeling this. In fact, you probably are. And then do an emotional check-in. Ask them a question to check in with them, to give them the space to process what they're feeling, but also to let them know that you care about how this affects them. So it could be, how are you feeling about all this as you hear it? Or tell me, what's your initial reaction when you heard this? Or, okay, now I'm wondering, what questions or concerns do you have? Take a moment, pause, meet that emotion that they're feeling with empathy, give them the space to think about it and process it. And it just might be the single most important factor that contributes to your success as you transition clients to the new firm. Client benefit, confidence, clarity, connection, which takes us to the last of the 5 C's, which is contact. They need to know, where can I find you? I've been in this habit of knowing exactly where to find you, where to track you down, how to get a hold of you. So you can craft the perfect message. You can reassure them emotionally. You can explain all the benefits of your move through their lens and how it benefits them. But if they don't know ultimately how they're going to be able to reach you at your new firm, maybe none of it matters. They may go, hey, I kind of wanted to go with them, but I don't really know how to get a hold of them. Now, you may think that they have Google and they can find you that way. And that's 100% true. But trust me, when you're making a move like this, when you're making a transition like this, and you're asking clients to up and change what they've been doing, you want to minimize and eliminate friction as much as possible. One of the ways to do that is to make sure they know exactly how to find you and get in touch with you when they want to. So the priority when you're giving them contact information to know where to get in touch with you is obviously phone number or email. But after that, you can include a few other options. You could give them the new firm name, your website, social media, a new mailing address. Just make sure they know where to find you when they want to find you, when they need to get in touch with you. All right, real quick. That we've gone through step 1 and step 2. Step 2 is that 5C framework. If you're thinking to yourself, Brendan, that's helpful, that's good, but I'm sitting here driving, I'm working out, I'm walking the dog, I'm trying to take notes on my phone, but those are some long scripts. If you'd rather just see this broken down, the 5 C's, one by one with those scripts included, we built a guide for you. We put it all in a PDF for you. So if you go to the show notes for this episode 152, there's a guide for the 5C transition framework on how to communicate the message effectively to your clients. So go to the show notes, download it there, check it out. It'll basically walk you back through. It'll show you and give you the scripts for everything that we just talked through to get through the 5 C's. All right, on to step 3. So now you've gone through the first step. You look at it from the client's mind. You've started developing the messaging, the script that you want to create using the 5C framework, which takes us to the third step. Step number 3 is the one that's nobody loves, nobody wants to do, but we all recognize it's important. And that's practice, practice, practice. Yes, we're talking about practice and not just talking about it. Practice is not optional if you want to maximize the likelihood of your success, because at this point, you have the framework that you need to deliver this confident client-centric message, but it's also where most advisors fall short. What they do is they tend to treat their first few calls with clients as if it's their opportunity to practice and refine the message. Whatever you do, do not practice and refine the message on your clients. Just like you wouldn't go to a conference of 500 people and deliver a keynote speech without rehearsing it. Maybe you would. If you would, that's pretty impressive. Most of us probably wouldn't. Just like you wouldn't do that, you shouldn't step into what are likely to be some of the most important conversations of your entire career without practice and refinement. Practice and refine. What it does, if you practice it, by the way, it'll actually reduce your anxiety, which leads to an increase in the amount of confidence that you're projecting. The client, we talked about the importance of confidence. The client's going to feel that on the other end. It's going to sharpen the message, and then it's going to actually deliver it in a more effective way because it's going to feel more composed, concise, and clear. So if you're sitting there going, yeah, Brendan, I get it. That's important. I should definitely practice. Let me give you a guide on how to practice, or at least some tips on how to best practice so that you're not sitting there going, okay, I need to practice. Where do I start? What do I do? So let's assume that at this point, you've got a bullet point outline that follows that 5C structure. If you don't, first of all, do that. Write your bullet point outline or script that follows the 5C structure. Take that and rehearse it out loud 3 to 5 times. Pretend like you're on the phone. Pretend like you're talking to a client. Imagine one of your clients. Rehearse it 3 to 5 times. Record yourself rehearsing it. Record all 5 of them. Listen to them back. And when you record and listen to them back, listen for your tone and listen for your confidence. You're probably going to hear yourself stumble through certain parts. Highlight that and go, okay, that's what I need to work on. I need to make sure I sound confident through that part. And then once you do that and listen back to a recording and feel like you've got it polished, then you go find a colleague, you go find a friend, you go find a family member, whoever it might be, and let them hear it and let them give you feedback. Practice, practice, practice. Most people are going to hear this and go, yes, I think that's important. And they're going to think I need to do it. And then it's going to come down to doing it. And you realize it's hard work and it's kind of uncomfortable and you're going to avoid it. I'm going to tell you right now, that's a mistake. Whatever you do, do not practice on your clients. Once you've nailed the practice, we're on to step 4. The fourth and final step. So at this point, you've crafted your message. You've practiced delivering it with clarity, with empathy, with confidence. The last critical step is developing your communication plan or your communication strategy. You need, as you're ready to start making these calls, sending these emails, communicating the change, you need a very clear strategy that answers 3 questions. Number 1, who are you contacting? And not just all of your clients, right? But like strategically, who are you contacting? In what order are you contacting them? And then through which method or medium are you going to be conveying this message? So if we start with who you're contacting, the very first thing you want to do is do the math to determine the load that it's going to take, to determine the amount of calls or messages that you're going to need to convey, and start building out a schedule to accommodate that. So when you start doing the math to determine that, you want to know, how many clients do I need to communicate this to? What's the amount of time that I'm going to speak, that I edit? What's the approximate amount of time that I'm going to spend on these calls? And how much time do I want to allot so that I don't feel rushed, so that I create or give the space for them to process and talk with me? When I ask the question, I know, this is probably a lot for you. I'm wondering, what questions or concerns do you have? You don't want to feel like you're rushing them through their answers because you've got another call to make. So be intentional about the time you're going to spend per call, and then start thinking, okay, if I have this many clients, I'm going to spend this much time. Then you start mapping it out, saying, okay, that means I can make this many calls per day. And if I can make this many calls per day and I have this many clients, so let's say I can make 10 calls per day and I have 150 clients. Well, now you know it's going to take you 15 days to get all those messages out there, to make all those calls. So you can maybe adjust accordingly. You may say, you know what, that's a lot of calls per day. I don't think I can do that. You may say, hey, that's way too long. I don't want that much of a lag. What do I need to do to make sure I can talk to everybody in 7 days? But you've got to plan it out strategically, do the math to determine your plan and your strategy of attack. And then here's the thing from there. sometimes what happens, oftentimes what can happen is you sit there and you look at it and you realize I'm going to make this many calls. It's going to take this much time. This much time is going to elapse. One thing that happens is you start realizing that's a lot of work. That's a lot of calls, and you're certainly ready for it and you're ready to do it. You're willing to do it. But there does come a point sometimes where you go, okay, I don't know if I have the ability, capacity, bandwidth to call everybody in the time frame that I want to do it. So some of you will say, that's crazy. I'm definitely going to call everybody. Some of you will say, yeah, I feel that. And so you have to do what you think is best to maximize the likelihood of success. What I want to do here is give you a couple other options. If you think to yourself, man, that's a lot of calls, I don't know if I can do that. Here are a couple other ways that you can still do it in a personalized and effective way. So number one is you can send a very personalized, thoughtful email that communicates the same message. And then at the end of the email, you provide them the option to set up a call if they want to talk. So you're not dismissing the opportunity to talk. You're letting them self-select in or opt into having a phone call. The other thing you can do if you're going to send an email and you're worried about it not being as personalized, you'd rather call, you can use a tool like Loom to go in and record a video. And so instead of just typing out the message, you can record a video of yourself delivering the message so it feels more personal. Now, obviously, make sure that you're allowed to do that. All the same legal things and legal concerns we mentioned earlier, you got to get approval and all that. But those are two ways that you can still do it in a personalized way that makes the client feel heard and understood. Now, a couple pro tips as you start developing this strategy and implementing the strategy. Number one, don't start with your biggest, highest stakes client. I don't think many of you would. I think that's probably pretty obvious. But whatever you do, even if you've practiced, you're still going to be nervous going into it. You're still going to be a little unsure, and it's probably going to come out in your voice a little bit. So just don't start with your biggest, highest stakes client. Let your first 5 to 10 calls, your first 5 to 10 repetitions be with clients that, we'll just say, you wouldn't lose sleep if you found out that they weren't coming with you. Or the clients where you go, I know, yes, I worry about some clients I think I have a good relationship with not coming, but there are some that are just, they're locks. They're definitely coming. You can work with them. Or the long time clients that you have where you just feel the most comfortable with. Don't start on your biggest, highest stakes clients. Be strategic, be intentional and thoughtful about how you're getting your reps in at the very beginning. And then finally, lastly, as far as the plan goes, you want to make sure before you start executing this strategy of communicating and making calls and letting clients know, you want to make sure that you have some sort of communication tracker that allows you to track who's been contacted, the date of contact, and any follow-up dates and tasks that may come from the conversation. That could be in a CRM, it could be in a spreadsheet, but don't just sit there with a piece of paper and a list of names and check them off. Have a little bit more structured, intentional approach to be able to track these important things. Okay, so the last thing that I want to do, we went through the 4 steps. Right? So you got inside the client's mind, you got the framework through the 5 C's, you've practiced, you've developed a strategy. Those are the 4 steps you need to be able to communicate this message with confidence, maximize the likelihood of success as you make a move. Last thing I want to leave you with is an example of a script or a template that gives you an idea of how this whole thing flows, that goes through the 5 C's so you can kind of hear what it sounds like. Now, again, the most important thing you can do is develop your own script, one that you feel good about, that you feel confident in, because if you're using somebody else's script that you don't love, that lack of confidence is going to come through. You have to find what works for you, what feels confident. By the way, also know that when I'm sitting here reading this to an audience of people around the world, it's a little bit different than having a one-on-one conversation. So it's probably going to sound a little bit awkward and a little bit scripted. Just know that. Or maybe it means that I should practice it more before I'm actually ready to move forward. But I just want to give you guys an idea from top to bottom what this conversation can sound like. If nothing else, it'll give you a starting place from which to build your own 5C message. Mr. and Mrs. Client, I've got some exciting news I want to share with you. After a lot of thought, I've made the decision to leave the firm that I'm at and go launch my own firm starting March 25th of this year. So coming up pretty soon. And I want to make sure you know this is not a decision that I made lightly. I've thought about it for a long time. I think, as you know, my guiding light throughout my entire career, and I hope you felt this, it's just been a relentless focus on serving you or my clients at the highest level. And unfortunately, it just started to become clear to me that I needed a place. I needed to go somewhere that offered me a little bit more autonomy, a little bit more independence, but also flexibility to be able to do that. And ultimately, here's what this means for you. You're going to get the same high level of service that you're used to, the same quality of advice. We're still going to meet the same number of times. We're still going to talk about the same things. The only difference is we're going to have better tools. We're going to have better technology at our disposal, and we're actually going to be able to provide you with a more personalized level of service. And I think over the course of the first year, even that we're at this new firm, you're going to see that come to light. Now, I do realize that while I've been thinking about this and dwelling on it for a while, this probably comes as a little bit of a surprise to you. So I would love to hear what you're thinking at this point, or any questions that are coming to mind. Listen to the responses, empathize with them, answer their questions, and then you get to the next part where you say, well, the good news is we've already started building out a process to make sure that this experience is as seamless and painless as possible for you. Would it be helpful if I walked through those steps and what to expect moving forward? That's your chance to inject clarity, by the way. Walk through the process. You should already know how to do that because you've gone through the 5 C's. And then you end it with, last thing, obviously my contact information has changed, but I want to make sure you know how to reach me at all times. So do you prefer phone, email, both? What would you like to have? And let them tell you what they want, the best way for them to contact you. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of something to work from so you don't have a blank slate. You can start drafting your own 5C framework. But remember, you got to get inside the client's mind. Then you start drafting your messaging through the 5 C's. Practice, practice, practice. Don't let your clients be your practice. And then make sure that you've developed a clear, intentional strategy through which to communicate the change. And if you do all of those things, you'll be like Marvin, only you won't have to go through the first week of wondering whether it was a mistake. You'll know what to say and how to say it to maximize the likelihood that your clients come with you to the new firm. You'll maximize the likelihood that you maintain their trust and set yourself up for the trajectory of long-term success that you've envisioned that you want as you embark on a new firm or launching your own thing. Remember, if you want the 5C framework, you want the PDF guide downloadable so that you can see it, walk through it yourself, get the scripts inside of it, go to the show notes. There's a link to download it there. And until next time, always remember, plans and pie charts don't change lives. People do.
Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of the guest. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. The commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by the guest or RFG Advisory or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change anytime without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. The guest and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.